I took Leadership 101 freshman year because I was curious about Jepson, and I realized that it was a very interdisciplinary study. It involves everything from history to social studies to political science to psychology, and all of these things revolve around the one concept of leadership, which touches our lives every day.
I thought that it would be a great way to kind of incorporate all different types of subjects in my liberal arts experience.
It has that nice balance between the normative ethical component of arts and sciences and also the practical component that you see in economics and business.
Coming into Richmond, I was like, how is there a whole major on this? And then it just opens you up to a whole new world.
I didn't know what I wanted to major in freshman year, but it's the kind of major that can be applied in any type of career I go into.
Combining that with my visual arts major, I really got to study everything that I wanted.
I chose Jepson because it really blends aspects from all different fields that I think would benefit me in a future career.
I used to be pretty shy, so I thought the Jepson path would kind of break me out of that and push me out of my comfort zone. And now I probably talk too much in my Jepson classes.
Through Jepson, I've acquired the skills to be effective in group dynamics and also a critical thinker.
Jepson isn't just teaching students to be good employees, they're teaching us to be good citizens.
Coming from an athletic background and as a member of University of Richmond's track and cross country team, I was really intrigued by how the leadership principles influence teamwork and team dynamics.
I've just met incredible people, I've been taught by outstanding professors, and I'm learning skills that will last me a lifetime.
There's so many different opportunities and learning experiences in Jepson that you can't find anywhere else.
I think the first time I got a taste of what Jepson is really all about is when I took Justice and Civil Society and completed my 30-hour community service requirement at a juvenile detention center in Richmond. And that experience was really impactful because I was able to see the issues we had been considering in class play out in real time right in front of me.
So experiential learning at the Jepson School has been really important for me. This year I was fortunate enough to be able to compete in the Ethics Bowl and also be a delegate for Jepson at the Naval Academy Leadership Conference.
Jepson at Cambridge enhanced my leadership experience because I've lived my entire life here in Virginia, and being able to go overseas across the Atlantic to Emmanuel College in Cambridge to learn about how leaders in the past shaped common law, which we still practice today in the United States.
My Civil War leadership class took a trip to Gettysburg, and it was such a hands-on learning experience being on the battlefield and seeing everything.
Our class put on a production of Shakespeare's play The Tempest with some local Richmond elementary school students.
I had the opportunity to work with young men and women who were my age and just a few years younger than I was who were incarcerated. And it was just so eye-opening to listen to their stories.
I think it helps me understand the ideas and concepts that we learn about in class, not only in the context of the classroom, but also in terms of my everyday life and also my life beyond Jepson.
I think experiences like that really help Jepson students stay motivated to help their communities after graduation as well.
I got to go to Henderson Middle School and mentor kids. I still do that now, and it's been an amazing experience.
Jepson connected me with the Communities and Schools program here in Richmond, who then placed me in an underprivileged, underfunded, underperforming high school in downtown Richmond. And through that experience, I got a really holistic experience outside the classroom.
Through Jepson, I've had the opportunity to participate in various experiential learning, and just through all of this, whether it's required for class or whether it was for my internship, I've just truly found a love for working with low-income communities and education. And so next year I'll actually be working with Teach for America down in Florida, and I'm so excited that Jepson has been able to help me find my love for education even though I'm not an education major.
Justice and Civil Societies with Dr. Hayter was a class that really challenged me to think in new ways. Dr. Hayter would ask you a question and then you'd give your answer and he would say, why is it that you think that? So you would need to be able to pull from, history or theory and be able to back up your opinion that way, and that's probably why it was one of my favorite classes here.
I think that the ethics class at Jepson really challenged me to question my morals and ideals and really think about the way we approach different situations and problems in the world.
Every class really challenges you to think in new and different ways.
During the Ethics of Influence elective, I began to think differently about the ways in which leaders influence followers and the moral limits of influence tactics.
Leadership 101 made me realize that history isn't just events, but also important to people, and that not all good men are great leaders, and not all great leaders are good men.
Justice and civil society exposed me to different models of justice and challenged me to think more critically.
It exposed a lot of what he calls intolerable anachronisms in history that really have become injustices and inequities in the present day.
Justice and Civil Society with Dr. Hidalgo my sophomore year. I'm just talking about the veil of ignorance and how we have to not make assumptions and just think things through and analyze them before we do something. It really stuck with me.
My Justice and Civil Society class taught me to not remain complacent in the face of injustice and to stand up for what I believe in.
It taught us how to help those who are the least well off, and I took it with a brilliant professor, Thaddeus Williamson.
Critical thinking, which I took with Dr. Terry Price. I think it's really helped as far as my other major, which is journalism. It's just helped me ask better and more intuitive questions.
So I worked at Alpha Sites in New York City, which is an expert networking firm. I use leadership studies every day there. Before my internship even started, they sent us an article on emotional intelligence by Goldman that Dr. Goethals had actually had us read for class, so I was already way ahead of the 8 ball in that sense.
I spent my last summer in a law department, specifically working in the immigration law part of the firm.
This summer I worked for a company called Fresh Bowl, which is a healthy foods vending machine based in New York City.
I interned at Mote Marine Laboratory in the Florida Keys.
I worked at the New York Times on their events team.
I worked as a cinematographer and editing assistant for New York Times journalist Ida Alami on her feature documentary France's Children in Paris.
I interned at Cavi Consulting, which is a startup process improvement consulting firm.
I interned at Delricht Clinical Research as a clinical research study coordinator in New Orleans.
I went back home and did my internship with the state representative's re-election campaign, where I was director of field operations, which basically meant I was in charge of a team that was always changing.
I interned with the City of Palos Verdes Estates as a planning technician.
I interned at HC Private Investments, which is a private equity firm in Chicago, Illinois.
I was a fellow at the Force Foundation, which is a grant writing organization, and I wrote a grant for an organization in the city of Boston.
My internship was at an education nonprofit that put educational resources online for free. And through those experiences, I found a passion and found what I might want to do with my life.
I'm studying gender and sports. There are differences in opportunities between men and women, and we're trying to highlight the reasons why.
I am looking at policy framing, particularly social interest versus self-interest policy framing.
I'm working with Dr. Tom Shields in the GIS lab to look at how gentrification ultimately affects housing and education.
I'm doing my honors thesis with Dr. Goethals on leadership and intergroup relations.
I went to an Augustinian boys' high school. My independent study is all about Augustinian leadership.
My independent study is on racial relationships and indigenous relationships in Central America, specifically in El Salvador and Guatemala.
I'm doing a senior thesis on superheroes in relation to American identity and how that correlates to implicit leadership theories.
I'm working with Dr. Hoyt to create a research trial that looks at the effects of awe, AWE, on a person's brain.
I'm looking at the evolution of media technology and how that has redefined democracy, especially today with the impact of social media on our democratic system.
Jepson has given me the best start possible by providing me funds to do an internship at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and encouraging me to apply to Oxford for a master's in medical anthropology and offering a lot of different social science classes that will definitely prepare me for a career in a nonprofit organization.
After graduation, I'll be traveling around the South Pacific with my friends from home on a little surf trip and then be joining Salesforce in San Francisco.
I'll be combining my psychology and leadership majors to work in the Department of Psychiatry at Rhode Island Hospital as a clinical research assistant.
I had an internship with a medical device company called Longevity, and after I graduate, I'll be working again with them in a marketing and business analysis role.
I'll be living in Denver, Colorado, where I was placed working with Teach for America.
I'm going to be working at a company called Investor Group Services, which is a strategy consulting firm based out of Boston.
This summer I'll be teaching sailing at a sailing camp in the British Virgin Islands, and then after that I'll be traveling for a bit.
Right away, I definitely want to travel. I just want to get out there and explore for as long as I can. But I do have a job lined up. I'm going to be working for an accounting firm, KPMG.
I'm planning on attending a Master's in Public Policy graduate program. I've just been accepted at the University of Chicago.
I will be moving to Washington, D.C. and working at a federal consulting firm called Guidehouse.
I'm planning on taking a gap year and working as a medical assistant, hopefully in the operating room.
And then I'll be applying for physician assistant school and hopefully becoming a surgical PA.
I will be in Washington, D.C., doing management consulting for an aerospace and defense firm.
I'll be interning at a data, IT, and management consulting firm in Richmond, Virginia next year. It's called Impact Makers, and I first heard about it through the Jepson Edge Institute, where I met one of my mentors, a former Jepson student. I'll be working there, he'll be my boss, and I'm so grateful for Jepson and all the opportunities it's brought me.